Welcome back. Coverage brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing, sponsors of our community and charity series. They've been there 99 years. Don't let anybody else on your roof. You got a commercial or gigantic roof space, they're there from anything from a small leak to a full repair, as well as solar. Cole Roofing, and of course, you got anything charity-related or 2019 event-related for good causes. I'm here to tell some good stories, all brought to you by Cole Roofing. Throw me an email, nasty@WNST.net. I've known this guy for a quarter of a century, and I think for the very first time in my relationship with Alan McCallum, we saw two Angeloses answering legitimate semi-media questions at a press conference in announcing that Mike Elias is going to be the new sheriff in town. Alan McCallum joins us now. You've attended a lot of these press conferences, not maybe some that where it looks like a hookah lounge. I look like I wanted to hang out there for a little while with those chairs, but just your impressions. I mean, I went back and forth with Luke, and I'm not going to beat you up on the baseball side and the back and the forth of how bad they're marketed and, you know, how the kids probably didn't show all that well on Monday to show that there's anything really new going on with the franchise, but there is a new guy baseball-wise, and I know that that's where you'd like to keep it anyway. So, and I was impressed by Mike Elias, and time will tell. It's a long time out, but they got the kid who's at the top of class, at least, right?
Yeah, no question. And I think I'd be hard-pressed to say that there's any way anybody could say that there was someone better for the job. He's never had it, but clearly all of the credentials say that he's the right guy. And not just in terms of analytics, or that he comes from the Houston Astros, but look, we talked a lot about analytics. I am not opposed to them. I just think that sometimes there's some overuse and some emphasis put in the wrong place. But obviously, they are necessary. They're a necessary part of the game today. If you aren't in on them, you're behind the curve. But his background is scouting, and I believe that at the heart of all of this, and every sport, scouting, particularly at least when you're putting a team together, scouting is going to be the essence of what happens. Now, does that need to change and grow and be redefined? Absolutely. I don't know anything in life that doesn't, but he seems to be part of that new class. Clearly, there's been success everywhere he's been, and I think that, not having his name on it in Houston or in St. Louis strike me as a guy who wants to put his stamp on something that is lasting, something that can get him the acceptance and notoriety that he probably already deserves.
Well, he's got rings from both organizations, right? So, he doesn't come in not knowing what a winner looks like or what it feels like. The question would be, who would be in the way? What would get in the way of doing this? And, the Angelos boys are running the franchise and never even stepped up to say who's actually running the franchise. So, and the Brady Anderson question was met with deaf ears by Lou Angelos when Luke Jones asked him. So I still go back to, they've had competent people before. That was a generation ago when they ran off the Pat Gillicks and the Davy Johnsons and other people. And they're still living with bad decisions like Chris Davis that, is first up on Mike Elias's, framework of what he's going to have to deal with over the next couple of years, and $100 million still owed to him. But all that being said, they got the right guy. Now, will the right tools really be there for him to do this?
So let me say this. I mean, as much as I'm happy that they signed him, that they brought him in to run the show, I wouldn't say that he was the most impressive speaker during the press conference today. He was quite secluded in some of his statements. Didn't say a lot. Said just enough, and that's fine. I mean, if he's going to do it, as long as he gets the job done. I'll be honest. I mean, the person that I was most impressed with today was John Angelos. Lou Angelos didn't say much, but I mean, there were three key things that I thought he spoke to that were really important. And the first thing is public trust, and we've talked about that a lot. And under the ownership and leadership of his father, that I certainly know you feel that way, and I feel like he missed. My biggest problem with Peter Angelos is that he always seemed to miss the concept of public trust in terms of his stewardship.
No. He talked about it. He just didn't live it. So to hear the kids tell me they're very available individuals and all that after laughing about whether they would be available or not for the first time anybody from the family has come out of the closet in 25 years, it's not a joking matter. Accountability when you've lost 115 games and acting like the media is chasing you down when half the people in the room are employed by you, when questions come from Rock Kabako, he is your employee. He's not. He works for you. He's not a media member asking tough questions.
I thought it was a comedic moment. Look, I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying,
dude, I don't think it's funny when I'm on the outside without a press pass after 21 years, and they're going to talk about transparency and talk about full disclosure, and then the one question that comes from my organization doesn't even get answered. While I'm boxed out, that's not public trust. That's not transparency.
I believe it's just the role of ownership for any sport. Just spend money, hire good people, and get the heck out of the way. And what they also talked about were the terms discrete role and obligation. And if the discrete role means that you're hiring someone who's going to answer the questions and do the work and be present and accountable for all those things, and they will support them financially, and in the moments that those questions need to be answered by ownership, I'm fine with that. Totally fine with that. And then in terms of obligation, the obligation to look and find the right people, put together an organization and a front office and a franchise that is long-lasting, sustainable success, that is financially supported, and looks towards its community and says, we're going to do this for you. We're going to get back to you for your support of us. I'm totally fine with that, and that's I frankly. The owners that I've seen in sports that spend a whole lot of time talking are usually not the ones I want running the franchise that I care about. So,
but you do want to know that somebody is there and that they are competent and they are thinking. And this was the first time the organization has said anything in 21 years. So, I wasn't impressed with them as deep thinkers or architects of anything, which is part of what scares me. Because when you say discreet, there is a notion that they made that this thing runs itself. You know what I mean? That it's some consortium of thoughts in there. No, dude, it's been a dictatorship. It's been one human being and one family and one ideology and one set of thoughts for half of my life now. So, and that guy's thoughts and his actions and his deeds have dictated everything about the tenor of the franchise. So to act like you can be absentee or that this is just easy peasy and we just roll the ball out, nobody really needs to be accountable for the tough decisions because Mike will make those tough decisions. Dude, there's a whole bunch of things at work here above and beyond whether they can ever fix the thing on the baseball team, including black and white and east and west and rich and poor and downtown and uptown and who's going to come to the ballpark and where the businesses are and how the local business community feels here and the health of the community here, the health of the business community.
And there's a ton of that needs to get done. Everybody knows that. But I've seen what it looks like when Angelos is always in place and talking. And so far, I'll be honest, we talked about this. I was concerned that it was, in terms of when they started, I thought they should have started this process well into the summer while I think the season was still going on. But you know what? Some of the people that they were going to want to talk to were in the process of trying to get their team to the World Series and deep into the postseason. And if it took that time to have access to Mike Elias and to have these kinds of in-depth discussions to bring him on board, I'm all for it. That makes all the sense in the world to me. So it's as long as the time is time well spent, that makes a difference. And if it had been the same old stewardship, it would have been someone like Ned Coletti, who's been around for a long time and probably would have done an okay job. But the actions that have happened so far are good signs. Does that mean that it's all going to happen? It doesn't mean that the Angeloses, the sons are going to be good owners. It doesn't mean that Mike Elias isn't going to fall on his face. It doesn't mean that whoever they hire as a manager isn't going to be a joke. I mean, none of those things.
Well, Alan, the first
yet.
good sign is the kids came out and had a press conference. Now, whether they're honest or not, whether they have integrity or not, whether they live up to the billing or whatever, they at least have realized that someone from the Angelos family needs to show their face, even though they look pained for all 41 minutes and look like that they would rather be anywhere else in the world than talking to their fans, which is literally what they're doing. They think they're running from their media, and again, 50% of the people asking the questions are on the payroll, for crying out loud, literally on the payroll. So I don't know that tells me anything other than they showed up. I mean, they've already gone farther than their father did. That's for sure, right?
They lost 115. The organization lost 115 games at the major league level. I mean, it's got to fall on your sword is not an easy thing to do. And the truth is, most of the mess that they're trying to clean up was not their responsibility, right? I mean, there are lots of pieces to this, Nestor. So, I mean, I'm not going to paint the Suns with the paintbrush that the father is responsible for. If this is truly a new era, and we'll see whether it is or not.
Didn't feel that way to me when I was watching it on TV, and it didn't feel that way to me when I put Masson on TV ahead of time and I'm watching Rick Sutcliffe. You know what I mean? Like they still don't use their assets. They still don't use the television network. They don't use people like me who would be an asset for them if they were just honest.
Okay, so
you know what I mean?
Like, happened. I'm right. I mean, this is the time to say, let's see what happens. It's hard to change everything all at once overnight. And if this is the beginning of the process, let's give them.
Well, that would be impossible, right? I mean, asking them to change everything overnight is impossible. Asking them to get a competent big league baseball analytical mind, quantitative data, as Lou Angelos pointed out, then, that checks all the boxes. I mean, it's a good hire. Now what are you going to do? What's the next piece of energy? The energy can't be the owners running off and not being heard from again for 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, because they're going to lose 100 this year and 100 next year, and if they're lucky, 90 the following year. If they're on any sort of trajectory.
If I know Baltimore Orioles fans, I think it's one thing when it's the late 90s and your team is going nowhere and they keep overspending money on retreads and mediocre C players who are essentially just eating a payroll and aren't going to get you anywhere. I think, and I'm not talking about the casual fan, I'm talking about legitimate Orioles fans, would be fine with a rebuild as if they have legitimate young players that they can watch being matured at the major league level, getting a chance, an organization making moves that make sense. I think legitimate Orioles fans, baseball fans in this town, are savvy enough to understand the difference.
Well, you feel better on Monday afternoon than you felt Monday morning, right? Like literally the press conference and him being in. I mean, they're in better hands than they've been in quite some time, I would say. But, not answering the Brady Anderson question, which was one of the real thorns and driving forces in what used to be. And when Luke asks Brady Anderson's best friend in the world, Lou Angelos, whether Brady's involved, and Lou doesn't give you a square answer, maybe Lou's not up to lying like his father. Maybe just not a square answer tells you all you need to know. And that would be the first little sign that, like, hey, man, this guy's only propped up and looking like he's in charge, and they paid him more money than anybody else is going to pay him, and he came in here, but is he really going to be allowed to run his system? The old man would get up and do these press conferences 20 years ago and say, Davey's my baseball guy, Pat Gillick's he does all the decisions, and we know that's not the case. And I don't think Steve Bisciotti would even sit in front and say Eric makes every decision. I think Steve Bisciotti has a role in decisions, and I don't like being lied to by him either if he lies to me. So I got a thing about that on both sides of the ownership. But at face value, so far so good on the baseball guy. Now let's see what really happens as opposed to what they told everybody's going to happen on Monday.
I will agree with you that that not giving full transparency and information regarding Brady Anderson, where he fits into this, is still troubling. And then the other piece is that why don't you divulge how long the contract is for Mike Elias? I mean, that's just ludicrous. That lets you know what you're looking at. it gives some structure to a thought of time frame, not necessarily to get to the World Series, not even necessarily for a turnaround. That depends on a lot of things, but just to have a sense of, what his security is and what the structure looks like. So, I mean, of all the things, those are the two things that give me pause that I guess didn't happen today. But we'll see. Look, I have no doubt that within a month or so we'll know how long he's signed for, and I think that he's a smart enough man that he has some sense of what the Brady Anderson situation is, and I think he would have had enough options that if it hadn't been implicitly expressed to him that he had control over that he wouldn't be here. So
he's a smart guy. Well, the thought that he does, and then the actual part where they actually give it to him, right? I mean, this has been from the beginning of time with sports, right? Pat Gillick was given his Mr. Angelos' word. Bill DeWitt was given Angelos' word. Larry Lucchino was given. I mean, I've written a book about the fathers.
And Peter Angelos, I'd have greater concern about it. We'll see what happens.
Joe Espada, by the way, what do you make of all that? I want to get that thought from you because it won't be the first or last time we hear his name.
I'm sorry, who?
Joe Espada, the bench coach in Houston, he'll be the front of the line guy. I mean, word is on the interweb he'll be the manager.
I mean, they certainly didn't speak to that today. I'm sure he's going to look under every rock before he makes the decision. But everything I hear about Espada is that he's a great candidate. Being a bench coach for a manager certainly doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a great one. Just see the hire for the Nationals down the way in the previous season. But he came from the Yankees and sat at the table, so to speak, in Houston. I like the idea that he has a multicultural background because in today's baseball, again, with the international market, with the nature of the game, you have to be able to bring different groups of people together. You have to be able to cross cultural lines, and you have to be able to understand, how to talk to different groups of people. So I think that there's something to be said for that. Obviously, he's had to embrace the analytic field and concepts, but he's a coach. So you have to be able to communicate that to people. And again, if you're using the Houston Astros as a model, it would certainly seem that they've found a way to do that pretty effectively within their organization. So what I know about him, I would say he's certainly a worthy candidate. And quite frankly, I mean, I don't know that it makes sense to bring in a veteran guy at this point with the rebuild. You want fresh eyes, fresh mind. And more importantly, probably more importantly than anything else, you want everybody on the same page. You want people at the top of the organization to be able to speak to each other. Now, I am not a fan of the new trend in baseball where managing on the field starts in the front office. I mean, I think that a field manager should have room to do what he needs to do. But that said, the field manager and the general manager, or however your organization is set up, should be able to communicate with each other in a way that makes sense, be on the same page. And I certainly believe that a general manager should be able to hire their own guy so that you can help facilitate that. So, I mean, look, if he's the choice, why not Joe Espada? The boxes get checked in that situation. And we just need to know more about him. If he's not the right guy, I'm not expecting the Orioles to win the World Series in 2019, so that can be adjusted. But if he is the choice, then I certainly think that he's a candidate worthy, with credentials and experience and knowledge, and known by the new general manager that he's worthy of a shot.
I see a Bowie Bay Sox running our future, Alan McCallum. How about that?
I think we're going to spend a lot of time getting to know the minor leaguers, that's for sure. And ultimately, and Elias spoke to this today. The timing of a rebuild, how long it takes, is going to depend greatly on how good the Orioles farm system actually is right now. I mean, if there are pieces, as he spoke to, both at the major and minor league level within the Orioles organization that are already in place to be part of a championship team, caliber team, then maybe it's a couple of years. It's not 19, probably not 20, but maybe it's a couple of years. If he's wrong about that, and the talent that was in the farm system prior to July of 18, and what was brought in at the just before the trade deadline, if none of that or little of that is capable of translating to the beginning, not the complete, but at the beginning of a foundation for a quality team, then it's going to be 4 or 5 years, and he's got a lot more work to do. So, for Orioles fans, what they need to hope for, and you just alluded to this, is that when you go to the minor leagues, you see the talent, some portion of the talent that they need already in place, and that the people that they bring in either already here or they bring in under the new regime to help foster that talent along. You hope that they are capable of bringing to full fruition the talent that is inside those players. They can unlock it and get them to harness it, so that you can, at that point, then you're just trying to build more structure for long-term sustained success, and spending money to get the final pieces you need to make a run. But it's also important to remember that the Yankees and the Red Sox are the cream of the crop, obviously, right now. So, the timing in a lot of ways couldn't be better, in the sense that as you're growing your talent, theirs is getting older. They're going to be good for another couple of years at least. Part of it is riding out the storm so that you can get your club in place and timed in a way that you can get back into the competition with them at a moment that makes a lot of sense.
As Mr. Angelos once said, we're going to get our brains knocked in, Alan. We're going to get our brains knocked in. Hey, man, we'll gas up the car. We're going to Frederick, buddy. We're going. I don't know if we're going to go to Delmarva, because if I get that close to Ocean City, I'm not going to be at a minor league baseball game. I'm going to be down on the beach, eat some Fisher's popcorn or something. Hey, man, always a pleasure. Keep the faith. I'll see you at a show sometime soon here down the pipe, all right?
Sounds good, man. Happy Thanksgiving. Save
room for me at Lewis Black. We'll save the country together, okay?
All right, sounds good.
There he goes, Alan McCallum, our longtime baseball historian, Orioles insider, advocate as well for all things Orioles, and trying to drink the orange Kool-Aid, as we all are. Mine is a little more tangerine, more like urine colored, I think. When I get my press pass back, I'll believe they want to be transparent. Other than that, I'll sit here and say what I'm going to say, which is judging press conferences from afar. I gave them an F, the owners an F. I gave the new general manager a B- for the press conference. Now, what the results are, we'll see. The ownership has been an F for 25 years, so I'm trying to get it up to a C. First things first, they showed up at a press conference, so we got that going for us. Angeloses are out and talking about accountability at this point, and talking about transparency at this point, and talking about obligation at this point. We'll see. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.